Ms. Platt, I believe, will be leading us through the beginning part of our meeting.
Yes, it's July 1st. This is the Haldane Board of Education Reorganization meeting. And can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A roll call. Trustee Clements?
Here.
Trustee Daly?
Here.
Trustee Headland?
Here.
Trustee McNall?
Here.
And Trustee Parr?
Here.
Okay, at this time, I would like to swear in Dr. Benante again as Superintendent of Schools. Do you have the oath in front of you with the executive content?
I do.
Okay,
Would you like me to recite it?
you can recite it.
All right. I, Philip Benante, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Superintendent of Schools of the Haldane Central School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And Catherine, I think it's your turn now.
Okay.
Likewise, do you have the narrative in front of you? Okay.
I do.
If you raise your right hand, you can go ahead and reaffirm the oath.
Okay. I, Catherine Platt, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of District Clerk of the Haldane Central School District according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now Trustee Clements, who was reelected at our annual district meeting, needs to be re-sworn back in. Congratulations. Peggy, do you have your oath in front of you?
I do.
Okay, so if you'd like to raise your right hand.
I, Margaret Clements, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Haldane Board of Education trustee according to the best of my ability.
Great, congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
And now I would like to call for a nomination for President of the Board of Education.
Oh, go ahead. Someone else was going to start.
No, you can go right ahead.
All right. I'd like to nominate Jen Daly. I am just so grateful for the work that Jen has done for the board and for the district always, but I think particularly this year. And I know that this is something she's, I anticipate that this is something that she's open to. And yeah, so I nominate Jen Daly.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Any other nominations?
No competitive bids. I think Jen Daly is the one to go.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Jen. And do you have your oath in front of you?
I don't. Right.
Okay.
Oh, click on the part of the agenda.
There it is.
Executive content, it should be in there for
Okay.
you.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. It's a little harder to do by Zoom.
Yes. Okay, I, Jennifer Daly, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Haldane Board of Education President according to the best of my ability.
Great, thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the support.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Today,
It's a
my
pleasure.
Declan at dinner, my son asked me, "Are you going to be the president of the board this year?" And I said, "Absolutely not." Absolutely not.
So this
So
is
we have
really
a
more
very
like
good leader.
condolences. This is more like condolences, not congratulations. It's fine. I get it. I get it. Okay, so I'm going to call now for a a vice president. So may I have a nomination for the vice president, please?
I would like to nominate John Headland for the vice president. I think he's done a remarkable job this year. And I continue to learn from both of you, and I continue to look to you for guidance. And I hope that I have a sense that, John, perhaps you are the person that wants to do this job, and I think you do it well. And I think we'd be lost without your leadership.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but it's certainly fun to do, and I enjoy doing it.
I will second.
Very good. So any other nominations? Okay, so it looks like we are all in favor of John. Let's say aye.
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 Congratulations, John.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Do we have your, do I administer his oath? No, the clerk. Go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, John, do you have the content in front of you, your
I
oath?
do, yes.
Okay, so if you could raise your right hand and recite that.
Right. I, John Headland, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties and office of Haldane Board of Education Vice President according to the best of my ability.
Great, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to the appointment of our district clerk, clerk pro tem, district treasurer, tax collector, and claims auditor. So may I have a motion to do that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Besides, thank you to these amazing ladies who are willing to stay in these positions, especially Catherine after,
Yes.
Yeah.
after the hazing that she experienced. We're very lucky to have all of you with us.
Absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So comments from me. The next Board of Education business meeting will be held on August 22nd. That feels like an incredibly long time from now. If there is any reason that we need to meet beforehand, we will, of course, alert the public and the board. But our next meeting will be held on August 22nd at 9 a.m. So that's a Saturday in room 211 of the high school building. We'll talk a little bit more about our retreat that will follow that business meeting later on in the agenda. But that 9 a.m. Portion will be the public meeting. And the only other comment I'd like to make is a congratulations to Ms. Sniffen and her team for an incredible graduation. And I'm sure Dr. Benante will be speaking about that a little bit himself. But John Headland and I had the opportunity to be there, and we're just so proud of our administrators, our faculty, our students, our parents, for getting through this difficult time and making it really a beautiful day, a beautiful ceremony, and important. So a thank you to everybody who put that together. And I will turn it over to Dr. Benante.
Yeah, just with that, Jen, I'll echo your sentiments. It was a wonderful graduation. It was wonderful graduation ceremonies. We had two of them. And again, thanks to you and John for being there. I think as I would hope our attendees would see that we put a lot of effort into making sure that we had their health and safety in mind, and the health and safety of our students, obviously, in mind in what we implemented as the Department of Health's protocol for graduation. And then second to that is that our students graduated and they were able to enjoy the traditions that all of our graduates are able to, walking across the knoll, ringing the bell. And it was, I thought afterwards they were sitting with their parents. That's just the way we had to organize this, and our graduates typically don't. But I wish I had spoke to this. I'm assuming that many of our students entered Haldane as kindergartners with their parents. And here they are now exiting Haldane with their parents alongside them. And and with the support now of our teachers as they move on to what comes next for them in their lives. So it was a great day. Got delayed one day, as you know. We were rained out on Saturday, but we're able to facilitate both ceremonies on Sunday. And the feedback has been very one of great appreciation. And Julia did a great job working with her staff. And I know Julia would want me to mention, the many people behind the scenes who also support with this. So I'll do that. But Julia really did a great job connecting with our kids and with our families in the weeks leading up to the ceremony in determining what we were going to do. And I think that it showed, that we made a good decision, and we were able to facilitate the ceremony again in a safe way. And I'm proud of our graduates and proud of our staff, and looking forward. I'm hopeful that it's a symbol of what's to come with the start of the school year, which is the safe, welcoming, and return of students to campus. So I hope we're able to do that, and it's a sign of what's to come. Just a couple other notes from me. As you will notice, if you're around our campus now, there's various site improvement projects that are going on. So our contractors were on campus today, putting up some temporary fencing around campus. So I sent a message out to the community yesterday just to be wary of that as they're coming onto campus, to obviously stay out of certain areas or park in certain designated spaces. But it's the first phase of the 2019 capital referendum that's taking place, which will include some updates to paving on campus, fencing, other site improvements around the campus. Additionally, we have new equipment coming into the cafeteria, which Nancy is thrilled about. We have the new flooring being installed in the cafeteria this week. So I'm pleased to see that work continue to move forward. Obviously, Tim and his crew have been busy coordinating and making sure that everything is on time, and we are on time thus far, and obviously we look forward to that work getting done over the course of the next month. So we expect it will take about that long for all of these miscellaneous projects to be completed. And tomorrow is our first meeting of the school reopening task force, which we spoke about probably a few weeks ago. And we have between, I think, about 40 members of the school community who are volunteering their time to be a part of the task force. They will be each in subgroups approaching different planning elements. As you may know, New York State, the Education Department has not released their planning documents to us yet. We expect to get those in mid-July, but this is where it's been helpful to work with Alteris, because they have culled the guidance from the CDC, from the Department of Health, and other best practices that are occurring globally in school reopenings, and organized essentially a planning document for us that likely will be very similar to what we received from the state. So the help of Alteris puts us in a good position to know that our time's going to be well spent, and we look forward to starting that work tomorrow. And then that work will continue through the month of July and early August. My hope is that we have at least an initial planning document completed by the end of the month. I know that's a bit ambitious, but that would, if we have to go a little bit further than that, that's okay. But we want to make sure we leave time on the back end to communicate our plans to parents, to our staff, and other community members who may be impacted. And as you see, the situation related to COVID continues to evolve. So while New York has done its part to contain the spread of the virus, we're seeing that there's significant spread now elsewhere in the United States, and there's now various domestic travel restrictions that are in place. So that creates, during this time of year, not so much it's not as significant a management issue, but as we get closer to the start of the school year, with the potential for students to have traveled or staff to have traveled, we want to make sure we get the message out that there may be implications for doing so if you're going to Florida or you're going to Arizona or the Carolinas. So we put something out to staff yesterday, and it's obviously being it's out in the media, but we want to continue to promote that message that if you're traveling, there may be quarantine requirements depending on where you go. So our response will continue as long as this continues to be an issue. not only in New York, but in areas throughout our country. With that, those are all the updates I have for today. Welcome to the new school year. Again, congratulations to Peggy on her re-election, and congratulations to Jen and John on your appointment as president and vice president, respectively. I look forward to working with all of you as we get ready for this coming school year.
Thanks. Phil, I just have a question about the reopening task force. So this may become clear as we go. I'll be participating for the board, to represent the board. You mentioned the goal of having a plan by the end of the month. Will the board have an opportunity to view that plan at any time, or will the board just be looped in as the rest of the community is looped in?
No, actually, the board will. And the idea, we had talked at one point of potentially meeting midsummer with the board, having a board meeting at that point. And I would say the purpose of that meeting would be likely to provide an update on probably some business items, but most importantly, the planning that had been done in preparation for the start of the school year. Right. What's difficult, we haven't scheduled that just yet because I don't want to, schedule a meeting now and then come to find that, we need 2 more weeks or there's some other situation that's occurred. So, but that's on our radar, potentially to check in with the board to discuss those planning elements specifically.
So the board should then consider at some point towards the end of July, we might be having a meeting specifically to review the reopening.
Yep, I would say more likely the beginning of August, I don't know how significant that is to the extent that it's possible. I understand that, everybody has plans and that may not be possible, but that is on our mind.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, communication from the public. So if there's anybody who is listening that would like to communicate with us, you can do so via chat and we will address your questions or comments during the second communication portion of the meeting, which is towards the end of the meeting. So feel free to chat away. And we're going into information reports. So here are the information reports for the board and anybody who'd like to review. And consent agenda minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
These are the minutes from our June 16th workshop meeting, budget, and trustee vote. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda financial. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda personnel. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
I feel like there is a lot going on in the consent agenda that I know there are some questions and comments about. So maybe I'll just bring our attention as a beginning to item 1, the annual appointments. We used to playfully call this the Linda Dearborn list, which it no longer is. But are there any questions or comments specifically about the annual appointments that anyone would like to bring up before we continue on down the list?
Jen, if I just want to point the board to the fact that we did do an RFP for school physician services for that, and Dr. Corsaro was actually the only individual to respond to the RFP. So that's a shift for us, I think, historically from, and I did reach out to Dr. Gergley to thank him for his service to the district for so many years. Dr. Corsaro does come highly recommended. He serves as the lead physician for several districts in our area. And checking in with my colleagues as part of his references, he's worked very closely with school districts as they have faced COVID-related issues, in particular in that 2 or 3 week period leading up to the extended closure. Some schools were closing, you may recall, locally. We were not in that position, but Dr. Corsaro was the district physician and for several of those districts, advising and working closely with their whether it be superintendent or pupil personnel staff to examine those cases. So as COVID continues, and really any other public health matter influences our school, it's important to have a good rapport with our physician. And everyone who I spoke to has indicated that has spoken of Dr. Corsaro's availability, his responsiveness, and his thoroughness in working with school districts and addressing issues such as that, and then other issues that come up through the regular school year, student health and safety matters that are, I guess, more routine in nature in our work, but at the same time, it can be at times very serious and sensitive in nature. And so I look forward to working with him this school year.
And Dr. Benante, that's also an increase in the cost. Do you want to just speak to that a little bit?
It is. I think if I could just step back, I think more broadly, we were seeing or anticipating a cost in such services regardless. It seems to be somewhat how the market is moving as it relates to this service in districts. But I did talk to Dr. Corsaro about that because, we're not a big district, and I do believe the rate he is charging us is comparable to other districts that are similar in size. We're pretty small, but he works closely with Putnam Valley. Again, as a comparable school district, it's very similar to the rate that's charged there, whereas a larger district, obviously the rate is higher. But something Dr. Corsaro and I talked about is the relative, unknown nature of what the school year is going to entail. So he was very open about reevaluating this at the conclusion of the school year, given what transpires through the year. So I'm encouraged by that because I do think in a district our size, we can have school years where our interaction with the district physician may be minimal, or we could have interactions such as this past school year, or maybe what we're anticipating this school year, where it's almost daily. So, I appreciate it. And Dr. Corsaro put that right out there. So I appreciate his candor and his flexibility and potentially examining that for future years, considering, if we could feel that the relationship is a constructive one. And I think that's I was appreciative that, he mentioned that. And I think that's something all districts are facing right now in working with their physicians.
Any other questions or comments about the annual appointments list?
I have a comment. I just wanted to say that I'm really excited about the appointment of Ms. Katie Boonshaw, the visual arts teacher. I mean, you can tell from looking at her materials that she's going to bring a tremendous amount of experience, but I also happen to know of her through a fellow arts educator who is herself a visual artist, who is over the moon and thrilled that she's going to be here joining us. I think she's going to add quite a bit to the curriculum, and it's a wonderful, wonderful hire. So thank you for the recommendation.
Nice.
I had a couple of questions about the annual appointments. When Dr. Bowers was in the district and we were really prioritizing, which we definitely still are, communication between the board and the public and the district and the public, we added the positions of public relations and school webmaster. And I mean, I think, having those positions makes sense, but I don't know, like we implemented them at this one point, and we haven't really revisited sort of like what our expectations are for those roles moving forward. And so I wanted to know a little bit about that.
So as in the time that I've been here, it appears that Megan in particular has fulfilled, who I think has served in this role in multiple years.
That's right. I can't remember the first year, but yeah.
Okay. At least in the 2 years I've been here, I think she served in this capacity each time. There are very specific responsibilities aligned with each. I would say that we have made some shifts over the past 2 years in how we've defined the expectations related to it. So for example, I'm just going to flip back to it, Peggy, the public relations. It's my understanding that some of the history there was that we were paying BOCES to create newsletters for us at a particular cost. And there was a feeling that we could manage such a process internally at less cost. And that really became the key responsibility under public relations. Likewise, or I shouldn't say likewise, I'm sorry. The hosting of or managing our website, I believe at one point was something we contracted out for and or had support through, and then we decided that we could move towards some level of internal support in managing the website. So Megan does both of those. But I think your point, or going back to perhaps something that was discussed with Dr. Bowers, was is re-examining, are those responsibilities aligned with what our greatest need is, or how could that be expanded to encompass other areas that, you know, we may feel need to be addressed. I'll give you two that just come to mind that we actually talked about today. The newsletters, I point you to that. We used to send out quarterly newsletters. As Megan has come into now work in my office, we now do those monthly. And there's a greater fluidity to that we're able to capture more routinely the good things that are going on in our district and share that with our community. So I think you'll notice since January or so, there's been a monthly newsletter. We may have missed a month, April in there because there was a lot going on, but we do try to do those monthly now. And I think it's a better representation of the continued activities and good news, again, that our kids are engaging in and that our staff is engaging in. So that's a subtle shift that we've made. We know that our web interfaces now also encounter social media, and that there needs to be greater alignment between we have, you know, a Twitter handle, an Instagram account, we have our Facebook account, and we have our website. So ideally, we need to step back this summer and talk about the integration of those 4 digital outreach tools. That would become something that Megan, you know, again, is responsible for. So, you know, there's still a need there, obviously, to do these things. I think the community comes to expect it, but we see that there's opportunity for continued development or growth in those 2 areas.
Great.
Does that help? You know, is that?
It does, especially the reminder about sort of what's changed with the newsletters. That definitely, and the public relations and the importance of that definitely makes a lot, you know, a lot of sense, a lot of sense to me. And I think we also, I guess part of it is also, I think we want to continue, and obviously this meeting is not the context to do that, but really think about like the website and social media, and sort of really maximizing the investment, you know, that we put into those just to make sure that we're getting the greatest return. Is there background noise? I have a fan on right now. I saw. Okay.
I don't hear it. No, it's just my volume.
Okay. And so, yeah, again, we had, you know, implemented these sort of, you know, just a few years ago, and I just wondered what the thinking was, but that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question just in general about the annual appointment list, which is stunning in its length and diversity, shall we say. So my question would be, it seems like, could somebody give me some background on what drives what's on this list? Because to me, and I'll presuppose, some of it feels like it's policy driven, that someplace in a policy says you need to do this now. And some of it feels like it is a, maybe not a policy, but like I noticed the petty cash fund. If somebody got hit by a bus, how would we know that these 53 things are the things we need to do every year?
I would say, and I'll invite Ann in to participate on this because some of these are more financial in nature, but some of them by law we have to include as part of today's agenda. And again, the number, it's probably around 20 or so of these. For example, the Title IX compliance officer. We're in a new school year. By law, we have to have a compliance officer identified. for the district. We're in the school year, so this isn't some, there could be a Title IX issue that could arise, on any day. And we have to have a compliance officer who's designated and who's been trained and to do that. So those are the ones that are legal in nature and that are actually written or driven by either law or policy, John. There's several others, something like the webmaster, if you will, that they're not required to be appointed tonight, but it's a role or responsibility that we have in the district. And I would say what's unique to Haldane is that given our size, we often, in lieu of hiring an individual just to do these things, we have stipends that we assign to individuals or provide to individuals to fulfill these responsibilities. So our list is quite long because it also includes those individuals who, serve in various capacities for us, but it's not necessarily their full-time job. So that's why so that's where you see webmaster, public relations, and some of these other matters. Now on the business end, Anne, if I could invite you in, I do know that there are some that are required, and there's some that, again, similarly, we're pointing tonight because it's preparation for the upcoming school year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Some are driven by education law, some by SED, some by generally accepted accounting principles, and the ones where a person like Dr. Benante alluded to, it's authorization for payroll to pay them as well. They would not be able to get paid for this stipend if they weren't appointed every year. And then also on there are professional services that are just contractually every year they need to be renewed. So, they're added to the list because most of them are rollovers, and instead of having a separate resolution for Catherine to read, we put them on the annual list.
That's fantastic. And just as a quick question, is it just to give the board or the district an opportunity to reconsider, but why do we redo per diems or hourly rates at this time or every year, or what's the thinking behind that?
I'll defer to Anne on that one.
Because some of them change.
Yeah.
Some of them change with the contract, and some of them are just the fact that we realize that they've been at a certain level for a few years and they're out of pace with a comparable entry-level position. So we would change those amounts. But again, that's linked to payroll. This list, our payroll clerk, Sia, will take this list and then therefore import the numbers into the payroll system. Otherwise, she wouldn't be authorized to pay.
Okay. Thank you.
So moving away from annual appointments, is there anything else on this long list of items that anyone has any questions about, or if Dr. Benante you wanted to point out?
I did just want to echo Sean's sentiments. We're very excited to have Katie Boonshoff join us as arts educator for our district. And I had the opportunity to meet Katie 2 weeks ago virtually. And I want to assure the community, even though this is an environment where, there may be restrictions on how we can proceed with what would be a normal interview process. Our building principals, in this case, Julia was leading this search, are doing a great job of still making sure that we're getting a glimpse of how they would approach their instruction with kids, albeit it's virtual, but that's very helpful to us and comforting us to know that we're examining all of our candidates through that lens and the practices that they would employ in a classroom. So this included for Katie actually submitting a video of her teaching a class. So, and it does for each of our other candidates. So Katie's going to do very well here. I think she's a good fit for our school community, and I'm excited to have her on campus this fall. It's a reminder as well that we're also in the midst of hiring an English teacher for the high school, and also a special education teacher for the middle school and high school. I may have that wrong. It might just be the high school. Excuse me on that if I misspoke. But those interviews were being facilitated over the course of the last 2 weeks. We hope to make final decisions next week on both of those positions.
And Dr. Benante, something you've mentioned to me, which I think is really interesting, is that this current interview process, you're not just looking for somebody and how they teach in the classroom, you're also wondering how they're going to teach remotely.
Yes.
And for a candidate, that candidate needs to be able to demonstrate themselves as a classroom teacher and as a remote learning clutch teacher at the same time. So that's actually a very different process.
It is. I empathize with our candidates. One interview is hard enough. Now talking about two very different domains potentially, because teaching remotely is different than teaching in a classroom with students. So it really requires, a more elaborate skill set from the educators who we're bringing in. But Katie has great background experience. We're fortunate to have someone with good experience coming in. She's looking to relocate to the area with her husband, and we're going to benefit from that. So she knows Cold Spring, or I should say Phillipstown. She's familiar with the area and the value that our community has on the arts, and spoke really well to that. Again, I think she's going to be a really good fit for us. Jen, if I can, just because I know we're going to go into a couple other things here that there may be questions about. So if you want me to pause, I will, but I see some other things on the personnel end that I just may provide.
Why don't you go ahead? You might answer questions before they're asked.
So you'll see a couple of items related to dissolving positions and creating positions. And I just want to, I don't recall, I think I wrote to the board about this some time ago, but I don't know if we've discussed it as in a board meeting. But we were in a unique position where each of our office secretaries was either resigning, retiring, or moving to a new position, I guess, of those three ways. So inevitably, both the high school, or each of the elementary, middle, and high school offices are going to have a transition in office support. So it was a good time for us to re-examine the classification of those positions and to make sure that our buildings had the appropriate level of support in place. So we did that here, and we do feel that senior office assistant is the appropriate title for both the elementary and the middle school, and principal office assistant is the appropriate title for the high school. We talked about the principal office assistant earlier in the year, but the senior office assistant positions you'll be creating tonight. You'll be dissolving the former titles in positions that were in place. So first we have to dissolve the position that we're eliminating and create the new position that we're creating. But this does not necessarily have an impact on anybody who's currently in the position because of the transitions that are going on.
Thank you. Okay, are there any further questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Great. Going into unfinished business. So here's our retreat and business meeting will be held on Saturday, August 22nd. And this item is here just for us to start thinking about any topics that we might want to address at the retreat. Dr. Benante and I will sit down and talk through some ideas. But this is just my call out to you guys to start considering what you might want to talk about at our retreat or work on. I do hope that we'll be able to have our retreat in person in a socially distanced, safe way, but it's not till August 22nd, so we don't need to even really consider that right here, right now on July 1st. That is my personal hope. So that's it. I don't have anything more to say about it unless anyone has any questions beyond just get your thinking caps on and consider what might be interesting to you or you think would be valuable for us to talk about and focus on.
So
Go ahead.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, John.
I was just going to ask, just a reminder, is it, how long is that meeting on the 22nd? Is it 9 to noon?
Yeah, we scheduled it thinking the business portion would be from 9 to 10, and then the retreat would be from 10 to 1.
10 to 1, okay.
So,
I'm just trying to
You
think
know,
about
it's 3 hours
Right.
with some lunch.
Great.
And do you want us is there a deadline when you would like us? Do you just want us to send your thoughts informally and we'll sort of put together a plan throughout the summer?
Yeah, if you have any initial thoughts, feel free to shoot them over. I'll send out something a little bit more formal, you know, soon when Phil and I start kind of getting our heads together about some possible ideas. But if you guys have any initial thoughts, it'd be really helpful to hear them. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Go ahead, Peggy.
The only thing, I'm just trying to think, and actually I feel comfortable with this. So, you know, the way that we would communicate this, we would each individually communicate that to you, right? It wouldn't be a conversations that we would have offline. And then I think, yeah, that I think the combination of that input plus any ideas that you and Dr. Benante have, I feel comfortable. I was just trying to think through, like, what's the process? Like, if we're not meeting again, I mean, we are going to have this meeting sometime in early August, but that's starting to get close to the retreat. I was just trying to think about what the process would be. And I think that's what the process would be. We would communicate to you, you guys would, you know, the two of you would generate some ideas, and I feel comfortable with you all making then the decision about the final direction.
Agenda, yeah.
Take us in. Or
Yeah, I mean, there's
direction.
some things we always talk about at this retreat. You know, we talk about like committee structure and who wants to be on what committee, and you know, we kind of get that lined up. We might start fleshing out goals. You know, just start brainstorming about goals. So there's some kind of standard things that we put on the agenda, but if there's other things. So look for an email from me if you have anything in your brains.
Right. Well, I have an idea right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and toss out.
Hear it. Let's do it.
So it would be valuable, I think, maybe for the board to spend a little bit more time with the strategic coherence plan to make sure that we're really becoming fluent with the document. I mean, obviously we can read it on our own, but you know, but more importantly, my actual idea is sort of thinking about sort of how the board, maybe considering ways that the best way for the board to support that work and communicating about that work moving forward. That's just an idea.
Great.
That came to me while I was thinking.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would toss out two. One would be a conversation around our self-assessment, our final self-assessment, and
yes, thank you. That needs to be on the agenda. I think we said we definitely would put that there.
yeah,
Yes.
opportunities coming out of that, both for a conversation, because hopefully it is in person, and that will be, I think that will be a useful time to have that, but also to try to figure out, all right, what do we want to do? And the other one would be new board member training.
Yeah.
Structure over the course of the year, and some feedback on that.
Great.
Great.
It's like we have a full retreat here. We just figured it out.
We're done.
There's no time for anything else. So perfect.
Those
Okay.
are just ideas.
No, that's good. We need to do all of those things. Great.
Well, and it's on the retreat. So.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks, guys. Good start for that. Going into new business. So our CSE, CPSE recommendations, I'll turn it over to Ms. Platt.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the recommendations of the Committee on Preschool Special Education and Committee on Special Education as presented below.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is our Board of Education workshop meeting dates approval. I'll turn it over to Ms. Platt.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the following change to the date for their meeting as follows. February 16th, 2021 workshop meeting is moved to Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021, due to winter recess.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
So just to be clear, in our annual appointments, we went through and stated the first and third Tuesdays of every month would be our meetings, which we all approved. However, there is one that needs to be called out specifically, which is what we're doing now because it falls into winter. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bond resolution. This is the Catherine Platt show. This meeting. Catherine, you have so many things to read for us.
That's okay. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the attached resolution authorizing the purchase of school buses for the Haldane Central School District at Phillipstown, Dutchess, and Putnam Counties, New York, at an aggregate maximum estimated cost of $175,000 and authorizes the issuance of $175,000 serial bonds of said school district to pay the costs thereof.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just procedurally, why does this happen this way? Because we're issuing bonds, because it's a financial implication of a previously authorized bond act? Is that because we're issuing a financial instrument? Is that the reason?
Yes, this is authorizing us to borrow the money.
Okay, cool.
And on that resolution, it's written on the end as if it's a roll call vote.
It is a roll call vote.
Oh, I thought we just voted.
No,
No.
I think we.
Yeah, it was moved and seconded, and then
We just moved and seconded.
yeah.
Are you ready
Thank
to
you
vote?
for noticing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, President Daly,
Yes.
Vice President Headland,
Yes.
Trustee Clements,
Yes.
Trustee McNall,
Yes.
and Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, number 4, approval of the impartial hearing officers.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the following. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby delegate to the President and Vice President of the Board authority to appoint impartial hearing officers from the rotational list of impartial hearing officers. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education be notified of any such appointments as soon as practical after such has been made.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, here's our audit committee charge renewal. Ms. Platt.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby reauthorizes the Audit Committee in charge as presented for 2020-2021.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we must appoint some board members to be on said audit committee. Ms. Platt? Oh, should we decide first and then read the resolution?
Probably.
Okay. Who was on the audit committee this year?
Me,
Peggy
Margaret.
and Margaret. Who?
I think I'd like to do it. I think it'd be informative for me. I'd appreciate it.
Very good. Is there anyone else who would like to be on the audit committee with Sean?
Happy to it.
Sean and Sean, that was so easy. Okay, so you can insert.
Oh, so I'm not on the audit committee anymore? Okay, that's fine.
Oh.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I have sharp elbows, Peggy. I was
That's
like, I'm getting
okay.
on
That's
there.
good. It's actually really,
Started
it's
throwing
really,
them.
I was
It's a
thinking,
good one to be on.
I was thinking we talked about it last year. It actually is a really good one to be on because in being part of those conversations with the auditors and Tom and Roman and Carol, it gives really great, I think very helpful insight into understanding school district
Finances.
Not just the finance, but the process of the finance and what it means to be this, this institution with these finances. I learned a lot. There's a steep learning curve. I just want to go on record.
I'm happy to rescind my self-nomination.
No,
Peggy,
go
if you would
ahead.
like to.
No, it's good.
You can have my spot, Sean.
Okay.
Well, here's in all seriousness, however, Peggy, if you think it would be valuable to have somebody who has served on the committee as well as somebody who has not served on the committee as a sort of bridging like that.
No.
You know,
So what do you think?
the other members of the audit committee are
They're so fantastic.
Right.
they're so
Yeah.
fantastic, and they've been on the committee for quite a long time.
Yeah,
So
okay.
there is quite a bit of institutional knowledge there.
Yeah, no, I know. But
Yeah, no, I agree. The intellectual heft of that committee is our community members. Like we are so lucky to have those folks.
And Evan Schwartz was on as a board member for so many years that they really were very open when new people came to fill in everybody as we came in. And even though we've been on for a couple of years, they will be very open and welcoming to share it because they didn't have to keep telling Evan because he was there for so long. So it's good. They'll be happy to have you.
right, good.
Okay, Ms. Platt, go ahead and read our resolution.
Okay. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints Sean McNall and John Headland to serve on the Haldane Audit Committee for 2020-2021.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you very much, gentlemen, for volunteering.
Yeah.
All
And we
those
do
in-
that, just to remind, we do that now because that committee is going to meet really soon.
Absolutely. The rest of the committees we can
In August.
do along the way. All those in favor, plee
I
Aye.
Oh, sorry, I should have waited to say that.
That's okay. The continuation of Board of Education policies and bylaws and Board Policy 6110, Code of Ethics for all school personnel. Ms. Platt, go ahead.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the following resolution to wit, resolved that the Board of Education of the Haldane Central School District, 15 Craigside Drive, Cold Spring, New York, hereby authorizes the continuation in force of the Board of Education policies and bylaws adopted and/or amended as of June 30th, 2020, including Board Policy 6110, Code of Ethics for all school personnel, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education policies and bylaws hereby shall be subject to continuing review and shall be amended as necessary in accordance with procedures as set forth in the bylaws, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Peggy, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share about this from a policy committee standpoint, but I'll remind us that this code of ethics, we talked about this at our self-evaluation seminar, and one of the things we evaluate ourselves on is, do we reconfirm our code of ethics every year? And we were all like, I don't know, do we? Because it's not something that we usually call out. We reaffirm the policy manual, which includes this, but we haven't specifically called it out. And that was something that we, as a group, decided was important to do. So that's what this is. The code of ethics that the board is held to is the same as the rest of the school personnel. Peggy, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to share about.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I remember actually when we were reading through the policy manual, like, or maybe it was, I wasn't at that retreat, but this notion that this is something that we are supposed to approve this policy every year was something that had not been a sticky enough event for me to remember, and I think it is really important to call it out. And I think, you know, especially since we're now doing this evaluation and as well. So yeah, that's all.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our K through 12 guidance plan. I don't think, Ms. Platt, you have to read a resolution for this. I will just say, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Oh, second.
So this is just the review of the K through 12 guidance plan for 2021. Dr. Benante, do you want to speak to this at all?
Not at length, Jen. Just that this was a new guidance plan that was approved by the board last school year, and similar to the code of conduct, it has to be reviewed each year. As we continue to work to tweak and modify it, those edits are reflected in the documents that we've provided to you along with the updated plan.
Great. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, it's just great to, it is. It's great to see the Haldane Essentials included in the document and to see the strategy and action plan. How those major ideas start to focus something like this. This is such an important document in so many ways that it's just, I like to see it in action. It actually clarifies some of those essentials in a way and how they can have an immediate impact. So it's really it's useful. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, adoption of our curriculum. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Oh, second.
Is there any discussion? This is what we had a discussion about this at our last meeting. Ms. Jamin presented the phonics curriculum to the board.
Great.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is our nomination for the NYSBA Area 10 Director. So I'll turn it to Ms. Platt.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby nominates Peggy Zagibi for the NYSBA Area 10 Director for 2021 and 2022.
May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Peggy has been I don't know for how long, maybe her resume.
Like 20 years. I mean, she's been on her school board forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's
She
been
really
a real advocate for public education
Yeah,
and
she really
was very available to us. So I'm certainly advocate for nominating her to continue on in her service.
And of the 10 or 11 regions in NYSBA, or areas, I guess, they're re-nominated every other year. So that group that serves as the directing board for NYSBA is, you know, every other year they've got new folks come in. But yeah. Anyway, just
All those in favor?
aye.
Okay, communication from the public. I didn't see any chats. Go ahead, John. Did you have a question?
Yeah. Can I raise, maybe it's an old business, maybe it's a new business. I just wanted to have a quick conversation. I know that sometime at the beginning of this past year, we amended the policy that governs the agenda for the year, the agenda. And because we decided, I think correctly, that having to make changes to the agenda involved a lot of back and forth. What that leaves us with is, and it worked fine, which is there is no guiding structure for what the agenda may be. The guiding structure is sort of in our heads and it's kind of par for the course. What I was wondering, and actually the conversation about annual appointments kind of made me think of this, would this be a time where we could say something along the lines of, in general, we're going to outline our agenda for the year as follows, using the basic structure that we use now with public comment, because that was one of the key questions that came forward, information reports, financial reports, and so there's an expectation from the public that there is a set structure for how we will run a meeting. I'm throwing that out there.
I don't think somehow I didn't follow the point. I'm sorry.
Okay, so right now, without doing anything, our agenda next time could be completely different. We
Oh.
wouldn't have to have any public comment. We could, there are pieces of this that we wouldn't have to do. We could make a dramatic change to how we structure the agenda without a formal board.
We couldn't really though, because we would have to talk about it in public. That's not something we would do
That's a good point.
offline.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Could we, so in order to change the structure of next meeting's agenda, we would have to have that conversation right now.
I don't think so. I think John's right. I mean, I think the way when we changed the policy, I think we left it open that there's no set structure for the agenda. So my understanding is that we could decide to eliminate.
I think that was done intentionally and correctly in that we felt that there was to make any changes and to have sort of a reading and a second reading to change the policy which governs the agenda was a fairly laborious and probably overwrought structure. But I think there is some value to having a regular expectation by anyone who might want to attend to say, this is how the agenda, they see it online and we publish it, but there's, as far as I understand, unless someone can show me differently, there's nothing that governs or gives any expectation that it will be consistent from week to week or from meeting to meeting.
I guess not technically, there isn't anything that says it, but it is governed, it is the same week to week because that's our precedent.
True. So would there be an opportunity for us to make a statement at the beginning of the year and saying, barring any unforeseen circumstances, we expect the agenda for our public meetings to look like this, and I expect our agenda for our workshop meetings to look like this?
Yeah, I mean, there will be an opportunity, I hope, to at some point make a shift, right? That when we're back in person at some point, we did have to make a shift for not being in person, right? And change some of what was on the agenda in terms of how we were communicating with the public. And, and we'll have to hopefully be making a shift back to communication being slightly different and being in person. So yeah, I guess there's opportunity for changes to happen. I don't see any harm in saying out loud that, yeah, this is how we expect it to continue unless it doesn't. I mean, there could be something that comes up where then all of a sudden it doesn't. Like we added in board reflections, we added in superintendent's final thoughts.
Absolutely.
So there could be things, some adjustments that we make along the way that we think improve the way the meeting runs and the agenda communicates. I don't see any harm in saying this is how we expect it to go unless we see a better way. But I don't know if it's necessary to say that.
I think just from a setting expectations, confirming expectations, because I think expectation has been generally set given our precedents and given how things roll from a meeting to meeting. People know what to expect, but confirming that expectation that we wouldn't either do away with public comment or do anything like that, make any fundamental changes without significant a significant reason to do so. It just feels a little bit odd to kind of be floating without. I don't think a policy is the right way to go. And let me be very clear, and that's why I think we did away with that, because we need that flexibility, per your point, right? We would have, in order to shift to Zoom meetings or allowing public comment through chat, we probably would have done a policy and a reread and it would have been 3 months later, and now we were going back, right? So that structure makes no sense. And the flexibility is certainly useful, but the layout expected, I don't know what that means. I don't know whether that's, but
I feel like I need to think about that a little bit, unless anybody has any like strong feelings about it in one direction or another. I don't know if Dr. Benante, you want to chime in if you have any feelings?
No, I don't believe I do. I think the flexibility is something we've here I said no, and I'm going to comment. I think the flexibility has benefited the board as we've tried to work to modify the agenda throughout the year. I would encourage us at the retreat to just maybe give it a little bit of time to reflect on, does this format we've been following since we modified the policy work for us, given the range of circumstances that we've encountered this year? And if it does, great. And I think what I hear John saying is just a matter of really just being transparent and creating somewhat of an expectation for if people wanted to attend a meeting, whether it be virtually or in person, that they could understand how the meeting format flows. So if they then wanted to participate, they knew how they could participate. I understand that. So no, I do think though that's a good discussion for us to talk through, because we did make changes this year, and it would probably be helpful to just take a step back and evaluate how those changes have worked for the board since we've implemented them. The reflections, the public comment process, we have made quite a few changes to the way, and then on the back end, on the administrative end, how information is provided, how the agenda comes together. I don't think it's, I think it's helpful to talk about those things. And I think what this all started, Jen, if you remember, you and Peggy were reviewing the policy, and we realized we had a policy related to this, and the policy wasn't consistent with what we were doing. Just spend a little bit of time on that's great. I see we got Margaret back, so.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. My apologies.
Oh, that's fine. There's bad storms in my area, so I just assumed your power went out.
So you know what, John, I'm going to put this on my working list of retreat topics
It's getting better every
that has
moment.
come up. I'll put it on there as, something to review and see how we're liking the changes. I think Dr. Benante agrees that.
But I have a question for Catherine, not to necessarily answer right off the bat, but my understanding is that the district, there's a process for even modifying the agenda in the meeting, right? Like there's even, like it's within the realm of possibility, I think. And Catherine, again, I'm not asking you to answer this right on the spot, that like something could come up, and while we definitely want to post the agenda, or the district wants to post the agenda well in advance of the meeting so board members and the public knows what to expect, anybody can make a motion to add a new section, right? Like a new piece of business or a new something like that. And so, I mean, I guess I'm also kind of wondering sort of what the motivation is behind John's question, if it's communicating to the public about what the structure of a board meeting is, and if that's the case, like we do the same thing from, I'm not sure. I'd be curious to figure out what communicating that, like what motivates, what we think the need for communicating that is, given that we're a pretty stable board and we do this from one week to the next. But I'm open to thinking about it. If the concern is like, oh my God, like the board could do something crazy in 1 week, like the president and the superintendent could decide to like not have, comment or something like that, the board has it within its right for somebody to make a motion and for that to be seconded and for us to vote to add that. So anyway, I think Jen's right, maybe to think about it as a board topic, and Dr. Benante to continue to figure out that. I mean, because it definitely does sort of fit into our years-long goal of sharing appropriate information, right, with the public, the information that it is appropriate for us to share with the public, making sure that shared and accessible. So anyway.
Okay, so thank you, John, for bringing that up, and we will noodle on it and I'm adding it to our retreat possibilities. So to be continued. Okay, communication from the public. I don't see any chats. Did I miss any? Nobody's communicating with us. Okay, board reflections. Does anyone have anything they would like to share?
Hey, I want to second and third the congratulations for the graduation ceremony. I was not able to go last year because my first year because I was out of town. So this year is the first year that I've attended. And Julia said something in the second one, which I seconded immediately at the time, which was, she's like, I'm glad we get to do this twice because the second time I realized I didn't cry in the middle of my speech. And I noticed that for the first time that I was participating and watching such a fantastic and obviously different, but really, really emotionally warming ceremony at such a challenging time, it showed the closeness of the community. I saw Deputy Shelters come back. Watching the custodial staff sitting in the second floor of the wing watching this. It was fantastic. I mean, I understand it wasn't the ceremony that everybody wanted or has expected over the years, but I thought it was lovely. I really did.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was in a much better circumstance than Dr. Benante and Jen, because I was in the shade
the best
not
seat in the
wearing
house.
a black robe.
Yeah, Phil and I were on the stage the whole time in direct sunlight with our full garb on.
Yeah.
John was under a shady tree.
Fantastic.
With a nice breeze.
Nice breeze.
And the video will be up by this weekend?
I don't know the timeline on the video. I know Damien was making every effort to turn it around within a week. So as soon as we have it, we'll make sure it's distributed.
I would also point out not only the staff and the administration who made it all come together, like the number of volunteers who were there, like Damien, the Mekalakises, like everybody pitching in to, like, I can't even imagine there's such an infrastructure with the community that makes this stuff happen. It's fantastic. It's really just fantastic.
I saw a lot of people posting on social media that it was the first time they hadn't been to graduation in years and years and years. And I honestly think that was the first time I haven't been since before my kids were born. Like, we always went. Everybody always went.
Yeah.
And, you know, I planned on going, but my circumstances changed at the last minute. But it was, that was what I struggled with in the morning. I'm thinking, this is the first time I haven't been there in I can't tell you how many years, which is crazy because I know I'm not alone.
Dr. Benante, any final thoughts?
No, I just apologize for being a bit distracted. There's quite the storm outside my home, and kudos to Ann.
Maybe
there,
that's what it was.
The storm looks like it's right over Ann's house. Ann doesn't live far from me, so thank you, Ann, for your participation as well. It's interesting, but other than that, Jen, no further comment.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Hi.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you,
Have a
everybody.
good few weeks.